Hello and welcome again to this week's painting stream. I'm Matt and I'm joined by Andy, and today we're doing some Easter Sunday painting. Andy, you seem to be painting something awfully red there.
It is my first, and I can't emphasise that enough, first Bloodthirster.
Your first
First
Bloodthirster.
of many, hopefully.
Excellent. Are you going for like one of each flavour Bloodthirster then?
Yeah, definitely. One of each, and then Scarbrand, I think.
You know, I was very tempted to finish off Scarbrand on today's stream as well. So yeah, maybe good choice in not going fully Khorne. You never go fully Khorne, do you? Well, I'm painting up some Infinity. It's a Kuroshi Rider apparently, and I've had these boxed up and built for ages, and it's just really cool. It looks like kind of like the bike from Acura. So yeah, I want to kind of paint these up. This is the Japanese Sectorial Army, I believe, for Infinity. So yeah, doing a bit of work. I never played the game, but the models look really cool. So yeah, that is today's plan. If you're watching us at home, what are you guys working on? Are you doing some Easter Sunday painting yourselves? And is there anything that you want to get painted ASAP? Andy, I know I shared an image in our little WhatsApp of the new termagants painted up in some different colours, and I'm super excited to paint some new Tyranids.
Yeah, I've got some for a kill team that I'm painting sort of like in the background at the minute, and I've got some Gene Stealers and some Tyranid Warriors, and those Gene Stealers are yeah, definitely showing their age.
Yeah, which is a shame. I mean, I suspect they'll get new ones alongside the 10th edition stuff. We didn't see any in the trailer, but if I was a betting man, I'd say there's probably some new Gene Stealers on the way, at the very least when they get their codex. I know we've seen a lot of stuff about, you know, let's face it, the first two codexes will probably be Tyranids and Space Marines, won't they?
Yeah.
Unless they surprise us with
it's
something.
Quite surprising because
we're gone.
Space Marines Tyranids only got a codex fairly well, probably about a year ago now, isn't it? So I suppose.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is though, it's a whole new edition, isn't it? And everything's going to be completely different. I'm interested to see what form codexes take, because obviously it sounds like a lot of stuff's very different now.
Yes, yeah, Warcom have been putting out a few articles, haven't they, over the last week or so about the new edition, and everything so far that I've seen has been really good.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to find out, like, all the nitty gritty. We've had little bits, haven't we? There's a bit more about how factions and stuff works the other day, which was quite interesting. And it sounds like all sub factions. Yeah. It looks like
the Oath of Moment and stuff.
Yeah, and it looks like that takes up a maximum of like 2 pages now.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, which is really, really good. So while there might be more stratagems in total, maybe within the books, it looks like they're all linked to the different detachments and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be very similar to what World Eaters is at the minute. Because if you're World Eaters, you get the 8 stratagems that are for World Eaters. But if you're Disciples of the Red Angel, you get the 8 that are available to the Disciples of the Red Angel. So you only get 8, even though there's 16 in the book, you only get 8.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. We've often, in past reviews, complained about like stratagem bloat, haven't we? And how it's
Yeah.
I was never a fan. I'd rather all that stuff be on the War Scroll, data sheet, whatever it is. And it looks like that's happening now, which is cool. In the chat, we've got Steve Harbour. Evening all, just finished working on some 25 Warriors of the Dead. Quickest warband ever. Now I need to do the 3 hunters and decide on the basin. We played some Lord of the Rings not that long ago, did we? At Warhammer World. We should get on that again, Andy.
Yeah, it was a couple of months ago. Yeah, I keep looking at the Mordor Battle Host box.
Oh yeah.
And I keep thinking to myself, I need to get that painted at some point. And then I've got a bunch of Easterling characters in clan packs and stuff that I bought. Probably like June last year. Oh no, I think it was March last year. Which need to get some paint on them.
Yeah, it's likewise with my Gondor. I want to get some like resin. I'll make it myself. Kind of like kind of stone flooring bases to fit with the Gondor theme. Because I think that'd be really cool. You know what? The new Gondor scenery kits might be a good use of bricks now. Actually, cut those to
Yeah,
size.
definitely.
Might be cheaper than getting resin bases.
There was years and years ago. There was a model shop, like a model train shop sort of thing,
Yeah.
in Chester, fairly close to us, but obviously you can find them in like most places. And they had a kit that was kind of like a railway. Oh, my tongue tied now. A railway building like roof,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was kind of like a plastic sheet that was stamped to look like bricks,
Well, that's
like a
cool.
brick roof sort of thing.
Oh yeah, like plasticard sheets.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, one of those, all you'd have to do is cut it out into sort of like a circular base and then just glue it on top of the base.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Steve says Aragorn was a nightmare to build. I'm not building.
Yeah,
You built
yes.
you built the Three Hunters.
Yeah, I built them during lockdown, I think it was.
Yeah.
And Aragon was Aragon was a bit of a pain. Gimli was a little bit of a pain. Legolas was a breeze.
A breeze.
Well,
Gimli's only a little pain because he's shorter, isn't he?
Yeah. he was funny, was.
So yeah, if anyone else is watching, let us know what you're up to, what you have been up to. If you go into Warhammer Fest as well, because we are going to Warhammer Fest in 3 weeks, Andy? It's not far off now.
No, but yeah, it's about 3 weeks. Yeah, end of month. Yeah.
Are you?
Which I'm looking forward to.
You're looking forward to? Are you?
Yeah.
So we were chatting a little bit before we started going live. There's quite a few like ticketed events going on for Warhammer Fest. Are you going to any of those separate events?
Yeah, so I've got the Warcry event on the Sunday, which is probably going to be the majority of the Sunday for me. And then I've got a basing class on the Monday morning, I think it is.
Oh yeah.
Because that's something I always wanted to do a little bit more on, to really spend a bit more time doing stuff, is on bases.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'll jump onto that. That sounds like fun.
Well, likewise, I picked up the non-metallic metal tutorial lessons because, again, that's something I've always fancied doing. I've dabbled with in the past, but I think it's one of those things that probably really helps with someone showing you how to do it. And they've updated the event descriptions on Eventbrite as well. And it looks like you get a little kit with some paints and some brushes and the models and everything as part of the ticket. So that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, they usually do that for I know they do sort of like not Golden Demon, heavy metal painting classes every now and again.
You know what? I'd love to see them come back at Warhammer World. I've always fancied going to one of them. I guess. I mean, tickets to events at Warhammer World sell out like super quick anyway. So I guess something like that would be even harder to get, wouldn't they?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But no, I've always fancied doing one because, they looked pretty fun to me. Steve Harbour says Green Stuff World rollers are great for doing cobblestone. That's a good shout.
Oh yeah.
And then just put some green stuff on the bases and roll them out. Yeah, that is a very good shout. And Steve will be at Warhammer Fest on the Saturday. Looking forward to the Laser Quest. Now that's something we haven't booked, Andy. Do you fancy some Laser Quest? I think there's limited tickets left. No, not your cup of tea?
I don't know. I want at least one day of sort of like walking around the hall and seeing all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I'd be up for it, but Yeah. Like
Yeah.
we were saying before we started, we're probably going to have an itinerary, aren't we, just to make sure we don't forget anything.
Yeah, obviously 'cause we'll be filming stuff as well there, so we'll be working really, won't we, for most of it?
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll manage to get a little time to explore and take it in. I'm entering Golden Demon, which would be cool. Looking forward to doing that. Never done it before. Just for the experience. I'm not expecting to win anything, but just, you know, getting able to paint up a model and put it in the cabinet. I think that's a cool thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so I'll be doing that, and then what else have we got booked? Pub quiz, I want to say. We've got a pub quiz booked.
Yeah, we've got the pub quiz on the Saturday night, which would be good fun.
Hmm.
And then yeah, it's just the Warcry event and the paint and basing class for me.
Awesome. So yes, I mean, we're going to be there all weekend. All weekend.
Yes.
And then just
all
collapse
weekend.
into an exhausted heap at the end of the Monday.
Yeah.
And Jay and Dave are up on the Sunday, Monday, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that'll be cool. So yeah, if you do see us wandering out and about, say hi. Over on our Discord as well. I think we were talking about a bit of a Sprues Brews meet maybe during Warhammer Fest. If you can find
that'd be cool.
Get all in the same place at the same time, that'd be pretty fun. If you haven't been joined our Discord yet, oh sorry, Andy.
No, that's all right. Don't worry. I was just saying it'd be nice to meet people, put names to faces and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. We've got the most ridiculous theme park music in the background. I want to put something a bit more suitable on. Yeah. So it was just really putting me off. It was like you probably couldn't hear it on your side. It was like kind of fairground music. Like,
Oh right, okay.
Pretzels picked some wrong music picks for this stream. So yeah, yeah. If you've not joined our Discord, the deets are over on the website, spruesandbrews.com, and yeah, there've been some decent chats going on in there, hasn't there?
Yeah, a lot of hobbying.
A lot of hobbying. Yeah, it's good to see what everybody's up to. So yeah, if you're not ready, head over to spruesandbrews.com. The link to Discord will be on there, and yeah, check it out because there's some really fun stuff going on in there. So yeah, how's your Easter been? Have you been up to anything exciting? Oh, we've just, speaking of which, Andy Bryan's just slid into the chat. How you doing, Andy? Have you had a good Easter? Have you been up to any hobby? I've not actually done any hobby this weekend myself, Andy. Have you been up to
this
much?
is the only hobbying that I've been doing. I started painting the Bloodthirster at about 12 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh yeah.
And I've not really stopped. I've had a little bit of a break, but I've not really stopped.
You've had good progress there then. Did you spray him red then?
Yeah, I sprayed him red. Because obviously, like, majority of the model is going to be red, so it's just
yeah, it makes sense.
Just a case. Yeah. But I've got a Throne of Skulls at Warhammer World next weekend.
Is this the open play one? Where you
yes.
Yeah.
That which I'm going to take my Blades of Khorne down to.
Oh, that'd be ace.
Because this, yeah. Well, I painted the army during lockdown back in 2020, and I've not played a game with it yet. So
yeah,
when the new battle tome came out, I was like, oh, well, it'd be good to take it down to an open play event, which I haven't been to an open play event since Age of Sigmar came out.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to play some open play again, and yeah, what better to do it with than Blades of Khorne? So.
No, that's cool. You'll have to do a bit of a write up for the site, Andy.
Yeah, well, I plan on taking a lot of pictures.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing a kind of like a personal challenge thing as well while I'm down there, which I'm calling a blood offering to Khorne.
Ooh.
So I'm going to be keeping track of how many blood tithe points I get across the weekend. And depending on how many blood type points I get, depends on what I buy at the end of the weekend.
That's amazing. That's a really good idea. So, what have you got an example of what your schools for Khorne will unlock then?
Yeah, I reckon realistically, I'm probably going to get about 10 on average per game.
Yeah.
So over the course of 5 games, that's obviously 50 blood type points.
Yeah.
So if I get, I think it's 42 or more, I can buy myself Scarbrand or Bloodthirster.
Nice. That's a really good idea.
If I get, yeah, I mean it's something to aim for. Even if I'm not even if I'm not winning any games, I can at least go. Well, I'm getting blood type points, and that means I can get like a Vanguard box or a new clan pack hero or something along those lines at the end of it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Takes away some of the feel bad, maybe.
Takes away some of the feel bad. Just a quick shout out to some of the people in the chat. Andy's painting some more Stormcast. Amazing. And David Anderson, hi gents. Good to see you back on the stream. It is good to be back. We've been doing. Yeah. We've had the odd week off for holidays, Mother's Day, etc. But yeah, we're back now. Every Sunday, 7 till 9 UK time, painting predominantly Warhammer. I'm just painting some Infinity today for a little bit of a palette cleanser because I'm painting a lot of Warhammer stuff that is just off camera that you can't see. So yeah, it's I'm kind of like, I guess, between projects at the minute because the next thing I'm probably going to jump on as soon as it comes out will be all the Tyranids for 10th edition. I might do a bit of work on some of my old 2nd edition Tyranid models to get them ready alongside them. But I think that's going to be the next big thing I work on. And then I've got a Beasts of Chaos army that I need to build and paint as well. So that's kind of the next.
Yeah, that would be good to see.
Yeah, that's the next thing that I'm working on. So, but yeah, for the stream, I just thought, we've got these models. I've not painted them. I've had them for years. Let's get some paint on during the stream because the stream's a nice one to just chat with everyone in the chat and stick some colours down on a model without having to pay attention too much to what I'm painting.
Yeah, definitely.
I also need to batch paint some Bloodthirsters as well because we had a game. Me and Dave played a game when we did the Slaanesh and Khorne reviews because it's always good to get a game in and see how the battle tomes perform. And while Dave got battered by Slaanesh, I think there's some really good stuff in the Khorne book. But I think it's one of those books that you need to kind of, I guess, know the army a bit better. I think there's a lot of synergy and positioning involved, isn't there?
Yeah, with the Blades of Khorne. I mean, they've made them a lot hittier, which is good because that was, bizarrely enough, one of the things that the Khorne book didn't really do that well was kill stuff. But we've done a nice little balance of sort of like keeping the units all unique. Looking at Blood Warriors. Blood Warriors don't necessarily charge into things and wipe them out. But with a 3-up save and the fact that they've got they do like 2 murder rolls instead of 1. And then if you give them like the Gore Fist, as bizarre as it sounds, they can actually do a lot of damage when they die. So they're really good at grinding down the enemy and holding objectives.
They're quite a defensive unit as well. They've got a decent save, haven't they? And the save improves if they're on a friendly objective, is it? I can't remember. Something like that. I think they've got 1 point better if they're on objective in your territory, is it? Something like that.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, the Realm Gore Ritualist, I think the new hero model that came out for them as well.
Yeah.
That can blood mark an objective and give them like +1 to wound if they're near it.
Awesome. Shout out to Ralderon is in the chat over on Twitch. How are you doing, Ralderon?
That's an awesome name.
It is an awesome name. I think it's just him. Jay's not on because he's been painting Ralderon for his Blood Angels for Horus Heresy. because this Monday just gone, there's a load of event tickets that went on sale for Warhammer World. And I think, sadly, you were working for the ones that you wanted to go to, weren't you, Andy?
So I was working for the Horus Heresy one, which is a bit sad because I'd like to get to a Horus Heresy event at some point. I managed to get a ticket. I say I managed to get a ticket. My friend Jason managed to get a ticket to the 40k doubles.
Oh, so you're coming to the 40k doubles with us, Andy?
Yeah, so I'm coming to 40k doubles. I couldn't get a ticket to the Age of Sigmar doubles. Otherwise, I would have tried to have gone for that as well. But yeah, as far as I know, Jason's going to be taking Harlequins.
Harlequins. Ooh.
But I have no idea what I'm going to be taking.
Well, I guess this one is going to be the first event of the new edition, most likely as well.
Yeah, well, it's end of July, so I imagine the new edition will probably be
early
end
June,
of
maybe
June-ish. Yeah.
So that'll be fun. I didn't know you were going, Andy, so that's cool. Me and Dave are going as a doubles team as well. So yeah, we will be battling for the bottom table as is traditional, Andy.
Yes, yeah.
I saw on my Facebook memories the other day that time I somehow came third with the Khorne Dragon. Glorious times. Yeah. That was a fun event, wasn't it?
That was a really good event, that was.
Raudron says, I saw Jay's Raudron, lovely scheme he's done. Yeah, he's done a really good job. He has been with our little Sprues Brews WhatsApp group, has been inundated with Jay just absolutely nailing through a Blood Angels army.
He's very passionate about heresy, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I'm his doubles partner for the event, and I'm taking White Scars, and I've got 6 jet bikes built, and the rest of them haven't even arrived yet. So Jay may be trying to get his army painted in time for the event, but mine might be built for the event if it's lucky, and then I'll annoy him by bringing like a traitor legion with me, because it's throwing a skulls, isn't it? Might bring some demons. Yeah. Might bring Kabanda, Blood Angels and Kabanda.
Very unusual team up.
Yeah. And then for the 40k doubles, I'm probably going to take 1,000 points of second edition Tyranids, because I think that'll be fun. And you never know, Tyranids might be really good then anyway if they're in the new starter box. It all depends on, like, at the minute I can use that second edition army. It just depends how much changes. But I think if anything, the 10th edition looks like it's going to give you a bit more freedom. And yeah, rule of cool. Even if I have to stick, like, say there's a new Screamer Killer in the box, which there probably is, isn't there, from the trailer? Yeah. Even if it's on a night base, I'll be using that old second edition Screamer Killer, even if it needs to be on the most ridiculously disproportional base ever, just because it's cool.
Yeah, don't blame you. Do you know what Dave's bringing?
So he is contemplating. He had a moment of madness where he was going to buy and paint an entire Genestealer Cults army before the event.
Oh, okay.
And then Dave saw the light and realised that no, he's probably realistically not going to be able to do that. So he instead is bringing either Death Watch, who are obviously keeping a very close eye on these aliens on my half of the board, or the Astra Militarum, who said, and he was like, "Oh, but I don't know about them because I don't know if they'd work from a lore point of view, like the Death Watch would." And I said, "Well, what it could be that it's a local, I don't know, planetary defense force or something that is under the sway of the Genestealer cults, and at the end of the battle, they all get horrifically devoured by the Tyranids."
Yeah, they're just being led to their death, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, Throne Skulls doubles are a fun one because there's no restrictions on who can go with who. It's just a bit of fun, which just leads to some weird and wacky combos, but that is counterweighted by the fact that it's Throne of Skulls. So if you've not been to a Throne of Skulls event, it uses what are known as soft scores. So equally as important as winning games is your sportsmanship and your painting. Like, you could win 5 games and smash everyone's face. But if you're not a fun player to play against, and you're not making it an enjoyable experience by having the filth cookie cutter list, you're probably going to rank lower than somebody who maybe wins only 2 or 3 games but has like 5 favorite game votes, which I really like. It kind of means that anyone can win one of those events.
Yes, yeah, it does. I mean, it really does encourage you to be good or do well in all aspects of the hobby, not just gaming. Which I mean, it obviously depends on the event, doesn't it? If it's a competitive event, then soft scores are a bit, they don't work as well. But if it's not a competitive event, which doubles events usually aren't horrendously competitive, especially like Frona scores and stuff like that. Then soft scores, I really like them as well.
Yeah.
You can just take whatever you want, go down, aim to win like maybe 2, maybe 3 games at a push, and you can still do well.
Yeah. Awesome. So what's everyone? I see there's a few people watching the stream. I haven't introduced them yet. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what you're painting. Are you coming to Warhammer Fest, and what's your kind of itinerary? We're there for 3 days, Andy. I've got a feeling we're going to be knackered by the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I've got a week off after. It's my birthday on the Monday before Warhammer Fest.
Is it?
So I've got a 2-week holiday with Warhammer Fest being right in the middle. So yeah, I'll get home Monday evening and I'll just be relaxing.
Well, I think the week after Warhammer Fest, or the week after that, is the Eurovision Song Contest, which I'm also off for as well. And I'm going to 2 of the semi-finals and just having a whole like Eurovision week. So I might need to book off like the rest of the month because I'm just going to collapse. I'm really lucky that Warhammer Fest and Eurovision didn't fall on the same night.
Oh yeah, that would have been
I seem to remember.
Which one would you have gone for?
I honestly don't know. That's a tough question. I mean, on one hand, it's probably the only time I'm going to be able to see Eurovision in the UK in my lifetime. But on the other hand,
True.
10th edition and Awesome New Tyranid shown off. It's a hard choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what are you hoping to see at the event, Andy? I know it's probably a given that they're going to show off 10th edition, isn't it? But
yeah,
do you hope we get some? I guess. Do you hope we get previews for it? And do you hope that they're staggered over the weekend rather than all being dropped on the one day?
I'm really torn. I personally would like them maybe even the day before, and then that way we can sort of like, it builds up excitement. We can sort of turn up to Warhammer Fest. We can hopefully talk to some of the designers or the studio or whoever's going to be there about the game. I think that's going to be really good fun. But in terms of what I'd like to see, well, we're coming to the end of the Warcry season and Kill Team season. So I'd quite like to see some hints at where the next sort of series is going to be set. But yeah, I think the big thing is going to be 10th edition, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's. I think a lot of people are super keen to see the models in the flesh, but just more detail on the rule. The fact that Warhammer are bringing out these rule details fairly rapidly this last week makes me think that we're going to see. I think come Warhammer Fest, we'll know everything about the game. We'll know how it plays. We'll know the contents.
Yeah, it's quite I say it's quite surprising. I am surprised at how much information they are actually giving out ahead of
Yeah.
time, which is obviously great for us, because it sort of like gives us a hint at where 10th edition's going to go, and
Hmm.
what we're going to want to buy and build and paint for the new edition and stuff. Like, I really want to do a combat patrol box, because they've said that there's going to be combat patrol sort of missions, and they might tweak the data sheets and stuff like that to balance the combat patrol boxes against other combat patrol boxes. So yeah, it's going to be quite a lot to digest with this new edition.
Yeah. It's I'm glad we're going the 3 days, because I think there'll be a lot to take in during the events.
Yeah, yeah. I'd hate to go to one day and then miss out on. Yeah, like, I mean, even the pub quiz on the Saturday night. I think that's going to be a good laugh.
Yeah, and I guess if anyone is watching us and you got the 1 day ticket, it is a little bit different for us, because obviously we want to digest all the stuff to do content, won't we? Where I'm sure
Yeah.
somebody just going for 1 day, you probably will see all the reveals. Again, especially if they do all the reveals on the Saturday, because it'd be a bit of a shame if you, I don't know, you only went for 1 day and missed out on the reveals or something. I don't know. I can't see
Yeah.
them drip feeding more stuff over the course of the weekend. What they might do is drip feed it on Warcom, maybe.
They could do, yeah. And then that way, even if you're not there, you've got something to look forward to over the weekend, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. We shall see.
I mean, the last time I went, like a Games Day or Warhammer Fest, it was at the Ryko Arena in Coventry, I think it was. And apart from Golden Demon upstairs, there wasn't a huge amount to do at that event.
Yeah, I hope there is 3 days worth of stuff to do. They haven't really gone into too much on the non-ticketed stuff, have they? I think there are going to
No.
be some like kind of GM'd demo tables, multiplayer battles with someone kind of like game master in it, which sounds pretty fun. They also mentioned there's going to
It
be the
does, yeah.
Warhammer Cafe with merch there and video games, and I think board games and RPGs and stuff like Cubicle 7.
Oh, that'd be cool.
They've got the pick up and paint tables, and it wouldn't surprise me if they have like currently they've got the Vanquisher and Primaris Sprues that they do for the demo painting in Warhammer World and stuff. It wouldn't surprise me if they have a, I don't know, Termagant and Terminator sprue for people to paint up at the event.
That would be very, very cool. A little snippet. I mean, I would hope that with it being end of April, beginning of May, we might see what's in the actual launch box.
They absolutely will. I think they've already said that it'll get revealed at Warhammer Fest.
Oh, that'd be good.
And I think by then
I mean, we obviously know it's Tyranids and Space Marines, but what is going to be in there is going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah. I think they're definitely going to get the full kind of reveal of all the content and be able to see all the figures. I really hope they've got the designers and stuff there to chat to, because they've not done that for a while, have they? And I think it'd be a bit of a shame if they didn't, especially with it being like 10th edition. I think a lot of people would be disappointed if there's no studio presence to talk to.
Yeah, because we went to the Horus Heresy event, didn't we? Was it last March?
It was, this time last year.
And there was none of the game design studio around.
No, which was a bit of a shame, wasn't it?
COVID was yeah, I mean, COVID was still quite prevalent, wasn't it? I mean, it still is, but...
And the Heresy event was good. They had like demo tables, and you could learn the kind of basics of the game, and that sounds like something they're doing at this event as well. I think it's very much going to be the Warhammer 40,000 10th edition event. But I do wonder if we're going to get some other reveals. There's been lots of rumours of Epic coming back. Obviously, it's the 40th anniversary of Warhammer Fantasy Battle 2, so some kind of old world, even if it's just a tease, even if it's a look, this isn't coming until next year, but here's a little teaser of some renders or some models or something.
Yeah. Oh my days. Yeah, I started playing the hobby with Middle Earth, so that's always kind of like got a sweet spot for me. But I've probably spent more time playing Warhammer Fantasy than any other game.
Yeah.
So yeah, when the old world comes back, yeah, I think I'm going to be deep diving into that.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Do Tomb Kings, Bretonnians.
Oh, yeah. I think the question of what army you're gonna do is probably the wrong question, isn't it? It's what army are
Yeah,
you gonna do first?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's gonna be
definitely.
true for a lot of people. I think a lot of people will just jump on armies. If the rumours are true that the starter box is Tomb Kings versus Bretonnians, I don't think I'd want to split the box. I'd want to paint both of them, Andy, and I think you're in the same boat,
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah. I mean, I saw an Empire Bretonnian army way back in the day. We're talking like early 2000s.
Hmm.
That was painted like knights from the Knight Crusades.
Oh yeah.
And it was sort of like creamy white uniforms with like a bright red cross on. And uh, since then, I've always wanted to do a Bretonnian army similar to that.
Yeah.
And in the battle report that they were in, they were fighting against the Tomb Kings, so it was like an actual
Oh
crusading force.
nice. That's very cool. Yeah, I would be all over a Bretonnian army. And Empire as well, to be fair. I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to the Dawnbringer Crusades, Cities of Sigmar, whatever they're called. I think they're going to be called Cities of Sigmar, but the actual force of the Dawnbringer Crusades, aren't they?
yeah,
Just because that kind of, again, gives you that kind of humans in the mortal realm kind of vibe, doesn't it? What does a normal human look like? What does a human army look like? Which is something that we haven't really got at the minute because all those old models are just old fantasy models, really, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it'd be
Um,
interesting to see when the old world does come out whether or not they. I imagine they probably will stay in Age of Sigmar, or whether they become like multi-purpose and they're repackaged for the old world. Because then you
maybe.
could use all the Wood Elf Wanderer stuff as actual Wood Elves again and stuff like that.
Yeah, while a lot of kits got retired, didn't they, for the Cities of Sigmar, I do
Yeah.
wonder if it will be a full range refresh and a lot of those old kits go,
Mm,
or whether they keep them. I don't think they ever want to like invalidate people's armies, do they?
no.
But this is old Warhammer models, and I suspect they'll put out some awesome kits for the Cities of Sigmar. So I guess
Yeah.
the
And
question is
if they're
how they
not
do that.
selling,
Oh yeah, exactly. Cities of Sigmar always seem to me like the battle tome that lets you use your old fantasy battle army.
yes, it never really felt like a proper Age of Sigmar army, but just
Yeah,
here's all these units that don't really fit into any other Age of Sigmar army in a battle
yeah.
tome, basically.
Which, as cool as they are, I think when we get their own distinct identity for the Cities of Sigmar, it's gonna be so cool. The new
Yeah.
infantry that they showed off with kind of there's bits of Bretonia in there, there's bits of Empire in there, but they're very much their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, reading some of the Age of Sigmar sort of narrative, a lot of the Free Peoples are very different depending on what realm they're from.
Yeah,
And a lot of the people from the realm of Gur, which is obviously where most of the Age of Sigmar narrative at the minute is taking place in, they don't trust people from Azir.
they don't trust people
Um,
from Azir.
yeah, because they've sort of grown up without having to sort of really fight and prove themselves.
Yeah,
They've kind of been handed everything. It's very interesting to see sort of the relationship, like even the Stormcast. have to earn the respect of a lot of people in the realms.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm interested to see how the lore develops, because I think there's a lot of stuff they can do with that, like the tensions between. In the Broken Realm series, I thought one of the most fun things was, obviously we've got this Grand Alliance Order, which is a pretty fragile alliance between all these different races, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
more of a they're not order, they're just not chaos, death, or destruction.
exactly, yeah, exactly. So you've got the daughters of Cain who do rebel and go against Sigmar and take a city, and they've kind of got to bite the tongue and just kind of deal with it because of, Kragnos and everything else going on, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, if I
Meanwhile,
remember rightly,
go on.
the story with, is it Khorne? I think it's now been renamed as. Is because Morathi ordered the daughters not to kill any of the Stormcast. None of the Stormcast went back to Azir to tell Sigmar that they'd taken the city off him.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a really, really kind of really cool concept, isn't it? That
yeah.
A dead Stormcast is getting back to Azir quicker to warn of what's happening. So if you just horrifically maim them but don't kill them, which, the daughters of Cain are very good at, aren't they?
Yes, yeah.
You've kind of still got your ace up your sleeve. In the chat, David Anderson. Oh, sorry. That's the last time I'm working on Stormcast Eternals. Last time I was getting ready for a tournament, which I placed bottom with Wooden Spoon. I'm avoiding new army syndrome by building up vanquishers. Nice. And Tim Unwin, looking forward to the new Dawnbringer army book, hoping for a War Altar updated model. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
A new War Altar would be amazing. Tim's got a big Empire army, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I've played against Tim's Empire army quite a few times at the PSU one-dayers, way back in the day now. Back when I used to play Nighthaunt.
Nighthaunt? Have you dabbled with the Nighthaunt since then?
Not since then, no. I did about 4,000 points of Nighthaunt. And then I got a little bit bored with the army. It was sort of a second edition battle tome, which came out at the beginning of second edition. And I played it for about a year at events, and we just didn't have the tools to deal with a lot of stuff. Like, you might as well just played Legions of Nagash, which at the time could take a load of the Nighthaunt stuff, and they were just better. So I sold the army, and then they are definitely an army I'd love to go back to, because looking at the third edition battle tome, and one of the things they've done phenomenally well in third edition, in my opinion, is combining that rules aspect with the narrative aspect. Because like with the Nighthaunt, you get the waves of death abilities, don't you? Which, depending
cool
on the it's such a good roll, yeah. Depending on the charge bonuses or the charge roll, they can either make you, I think it's like strikes last, I think's the top one, -1 save, I think, and then maybe -1 to hit or something.
Strikes last, I think it's one of them.
Yeah, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but yeah, they're all very good. Nighthaunt definitely want to be hitting you in their turn, not getting hit.
Yeah, the Nighthaunt are very good. Tim says he got 200 infantry for his Empire / Cities of Sigmar. That's
you need
really
more.
Cool.
Get more, Tim.
More. Anonymous Rex says, evening, I see someone is painting up the JSA box. I am indeed. So, yeah, for a bit of a change, I fancy painting up some Infinity, because I've had these built for ages, and Jay's been badgering me to play some Infinity, and I like, anime and stuff like that, so I went for the cool kind of cool Japanese army on motorbikes and robots and ninjas and stuff.
Why not, eh? Why not?
Exactly. So yeah, so get these painted up, and then I think we're going to do some some Infinity streams on the site as well. Anonymous Rachel says, "Do you have issues getting the pedals on that bike in place?" Yeah, one foot's a bit wonky, but it's not too bad because it looks like he's leaning or she's leaning. I can't remember if I'm honest, because it is like must be a year or two since I built this model. It's been in my hobby box that long. Have you ever painted or played any Infinity, Andy?
No, I've watched a couple of like battle reports online and stuff. It looks cool. It's just it's a classic case of I've gotten into sort of Warcry and Kill Team. I mean, we've got 40k and Age of Sigmar, and it just gets to a point where you just got to say no. You've got too many games. I mean, I'm looking at getting into Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Yes.
So that is going to be sort of my break from Games Workshop, I think. I'll see how that goes. I used to play a lot of War Machine and Hordes back in the day. But I think they're sort of like in a bit of a weird place at a minute in between editions, and it's very difficult to get hold of any of the models, so it's a bit.
Is it? So I've not really strayed too far outside GW, because like getting the models. A lot of these games, like even Marvel Crisis Protocol is great, as is Star Wars Legion and stuff, but getting hold of stuff isn't always the easiest, especially without a print. It's not like GW just be able to walk down to your local Warhammer store and pick them up, is it? Very often you've got to order them online and wait for them to get in stock, and then it's just a bit of a nightmare. And then those games have a lot of like card components rather than just having books. And I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but I like a book with all my rules in that I can flick through and write an army with.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the thing of the past now. Maybe people prefer to have it all online, and it certainly seems it from the 40k 10th edition stuff. It looks like they're embracing the rules and stuff are digital, and you've got a few different options on how you get your rule content.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's just a case of being sustainable, isn't it? Books are all well and good, but let's face it, you can't update a book with an FAQ or errata.
No.
And then on top of that, you've got to. I mean, Games Workshop must pay an absolute fortune in shipping costs. So yeah, I could see it going the way of books might be a thing of the past in a good. Well, probably not the near future, probably quite into a distance, but at some point, I imagine, yeah.
Go for it.
Even the Warcry rules now, the compendiums free online on Warcom.
Yeah.
All of the core rules are free on Warcom. The effectively what is like the General's Handbook, which is just a player pack of 6 match play scenarios. That's all online as well. So there's yeah.
I think they're slowly embracing the digital side, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah.
I think there'll always be a place for books, though. I think people like books, and obviously Games Workshop must sell an awful lot of books because, people still use them. People still buy them for lore and for just enjoying. I know I have often bought codexes and battle tomes of armies that I don't play, just because I want to add them to the collection and read them. And that's not necessarily from a super hardcore tournament YouTuber types might all buy all of the battle tomes and codexes so that they've got the tactical advantage over people. I might just think it's got a cool cover. and want to have a read of it. So it's kind of, I think Warhammer's a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and it isn't necessarily all match play. So
No,
I don't think you can.
I mean
Oh, go on, Andy.
they've done a fairly good job in the last few years of accepting that match play makes up a very small amount, or it does make up a relatively small amount. Like the tournament scene, does make a small amount of a hobby by introducing open play battle packs and narrative battle packs, which is great to see. I mean, I've got to that stage with battle tomes and codexes where if it's an army that I don't have, or I don't have any intention of realistically doing, then I just won't buy it. And I've
Did you
got a big
previously buy them
pile
all
of.
then, Andy?
Yeah, I used to buy all of them. Every single book that came out, I bought it. Whereas this year, the only Age of Sigmar battle tome that I've actually got, in hand is the Blades of Khorne one, because that's the only one I've got. I mean, obviously, Aussie Arc Bone Reapers coming out next weekend. So when I'm at Warhammer World, I'll pick that up because I've got a Bone Reaper army as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my Gloomspite Gits at the minute, I haven't really had chance to get them off the ground. I've got a couple of Squig Hoods and a character painted.
Yeah.
So when I get round to getting them painted and getting a bit more built and stuff, then yeah, I'll probably go out and buy the battle tome. But at the minute, it's just a case of I spend my money on the book and I don't read the narrative or the lore, and it just kind of sits there.
I guess that's a question for everyone in the chat. Do you guys pick up battle tomes just for the armies that you play, or codexes just for the armies that you play, or do you like to collect them? If there was a way of doing it completely digitally and not have the battle tome, or you're maybe not interested in the lore, let us know, because I think it's quite an interesting topic. Speaking of the chat, Tim is painting 6 mighty Skull Crushers at the moment.
Good.
Skull Crushers are good. And anonymous Rex, I had a thought earlier today. They could do a kill team for Plague Marines, add an extra sprue with 3 extra bodies with unique weapon options and faces.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Definitely see that. They've got a lot of components on there for both close combat and shooting, and yeah, I could definitely see them doing that. I mean, they've done it with Leagues of Votan, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, one of the good things they've done with Kill Team is the little half sprues, just adding some extra parts. I mean, the Necron one was really clever. Considering it was an upgrade kit to such an old sprue, and it essentially adds 2 new characters and some alternate heads and stuff. And while everybody loves to have their own unique bespoke new kit for it, it does breathe a lot of new life into those old kits, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
We've got the Kill Team event coming up soon, haven't we? Have you had any thoughts on what faction you're taking yet, Andy?
No.
No.
I've got it down to either Leagues of Votan, the new one that's probably going to be coming out in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But depending on how close that is to the actual Kill Team event, I might go for like Orcs, do an Orc compendium Kill Team, throw in some Burner Boys, and basically theme it around a mech and his workshop.
Yeah.
And just have it, because the event itself is set in Gallowdark, isn't it?
Set on the Gallowdark. I think we get the full range of missions across all the different Gallowdark expansions, I believe.
Yeah.
From the ship crashing down. So hopefully that is a sign that the final expansion's out by then. From a purely selfish point of view, I kind of hope it is, because I want to take them Beastmen with me.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking with the orcs and the mech, they try out a teleporter,
Oh
an
yeah.
experimental teleporter, and that's what sends them to the Gallow Dark by mistake.
Are you writing some lore then for your
Um,
faction?
I might do, yeah. I might have it so that over the course of a weekend, they find orc technology on the ship, and the mech is puzzled because it's very similar to technology that he's created.
Oh
So
right.
I think I might have a bit of a twist as to stuff that goes on and happens and stuff.
Well, you've all sorts of time travel shenanigans that you can do in a Space Hulk as well, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. You know, the warp does throw time into chaos. So yeah.
No, that sounds really cool. In the chat, Anonymous Rex says, I learnt my lessons with books. The game moves quick enough. I can't really get good use out of them. Mainly the general handbooks. I think the move to 6 monthly seasons is. I mean, I guess, what are your thoughts on 6 monthly seasons? A, for the mainline games like 40k and AOS, and also for the kind of like secondary games like Warhammer Underworlds. Personally, I think if you're in a tournament scene, I think a 6 month like General's Handbook chapter approved probably does work for an event, because it means that lists don't become stagnant, which is which is good on the tournament scene. For people who maybe aren't into tournament games though, maybe it is moving a bit too fast, and there's not necessarily the same level of non-match play content coming out. It's been a long time since we've had a narrative book for 40k, hasn't it? I mean, I guess arguably we've got the Arcs of Omen books, but do you know what I mean? From like a
Yeah.
Crusade point of view, we never really got we got the kind of, they're very much in the format of the General's Handbook, and I'd have liked to have seen something closer to the Thondia book for Age of Sigmar, where you've got a nice kind of hardback narrative book with a load of new lore in there, and then some interesting stuff like the character creator and stuff like that. I thought really kind of added some value to that book.
Yeah, it made its own unique thing, wasn't it? You can buy it for the narrative, but then it's also got the some narrative potential.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I did like about the Crusade books um, was that they gave you sort of like narrative scenarios,
Mm.
like ambushed scenarios, and like character assassination missions, and this sort of stuff, which I think creates its own narrative. And we've not really had that for Age of Sigmar. When we had the Fondia book,
Yeah.
which, while it was really good and it gave you like the ability to sort of like the Anvil of Apotheosis and stuff,
Mm.
which was really good, it didn't really give you those scenarios where, let's say there's an outpost and you're attacking it before they can send scouts away, or those sort of missions or scenarios or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think narrative gaming is in many ways a lot harder to write for than match play games.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So, and Games Workshop realistically have only been writing rules for narrative games realistically for what, the last couple of years, like properly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Crusade and Path to Glory is the real kind of first mainstream narrative, isn't it?
Yeah.
On that point, and again, this is just a question to everyone watching as well. What would you like to see in Crusade in 10th edition? We've not seen too much about it, other than it's going to be fully compatible with the previous system, and there'll be ways of porting your army over. What we do know is that power levels were a thing of the past, and you will create your army with points. I think that's fair enough. We've talked about that in the past, haven't we, Andy, where things get a bit out of sync, don't they, from a balance point of view?
Yeah, if they updated power level at the same frequency that they did points, then yeah, fair enough. But I mean, I was writing 50 power level lists, and that's kind of how I was playing 40k, sort of like more recently. But
Yeah.
yeah, if we're going to points, then yeah, that's good because I can write 1,000 point Crusade army and then be like, okay, well, I can take that 1,000 point Crusade army to a tournament or whatever. If it's, let's say it's 2,000 points, so just add another 1,000 points, and I've got
Yeah.
it for match play and narrative.
Speaking of 1,000 point games, I think I forget if it's a weekend event or a weekday Warhammer event, but I was looking on Eventbrite, and they've written an entire events pack for 1,000 points Age of Sigmar. Its own little rule
Yes.
mission pack.
Yeah, I can't remember what they call it now. It's like lunchtime Warhammer or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've seen quite a few of the design studio, like I think Jess Bickham, and Ben Johnson and people like that. I've been to a few of them at Warhammer World,
Yeah.
and they seem to be sort of like weekday events, don't they?
Yeah. And I think that's cool. I do wonder if that'll become maybe an integral part of maybe the next edition of Age of Sigmar. I know it only
I
feels like
really hope so.
yeah, me too. Like the more different ways you've got of playing the game is cool, and one of the things I've talked about in 10th edition, isn't it, is the combat patrol game mode where you've just got that box, but equally you can
Yeah.
play Crusade or you can play match play at 1,000 points. That's three different ways you can play the kind of like points level games that we enjoy, and gives you the variety from just because you're playing a small game doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want a strategic match play game, but equally you might just want roll some dice, have a few beers, have a bit of a laugh as well.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
having like
like I
all
said,
those different ways, I think it's cool, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, like I said, I, I don't think I've ever played a 2,000 point game of 9th edition 40k
Really?
because, yeah, because all of the events that the PSU have done have been like 1,000 point events, just because they're like one dayers. And then whenever we've been to Warhammer World, to play in an event, it's always been a Crusade event or a doubles event,
Yeah.
um, which again is, it was 50 power level or 1,000 points. So it's I've never really needed to play anything more than that in 9th edition 40k at the minute. And for Age of Sigmar, one of the great things that we've done in 40k is you can play the game at 1,000 points, 500 points, 2,000 points, 3,000 points, and there's missions written for those different levels of
Yeah.
game. Whereas in Age of Sigmar, it's kind of just written for 2,000 point games at the minute.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good thing for them to be able to do. Right. Even if there's a supplement, 1,000 point Warhammer, you'd give it a snappier name, wouldn't you?
Oh, well, yeah, I'd be first in the queue.
Yeah. I
I'd
think
give
it'd be
that a go.
popular. Yeah, I guess. I think once we see 9th edition or 10th edition, even, I think we'll potentially see maybe the kind of stuff that we might see in the next edition of Age of Sigmar. Because even though it feels like it only came out like last year, realistically speaking, based on the edition cycle, we're probably going to see a 4th edition of Age of Sigmar next year. The big question mark is the release of the Old World. If the Old World is out this year, I think we're definitely getting Age of Sigmar next year. But even if it isn't, we could still well get AOS 4 coming out in the summer, and then the Old World coming out in the winter.
Yeah.
I think that the speed they're churning out releases now, it's hard to kind of like gauge based on old stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Games Workshop are almost an ever-evolving company in terms of how they're doing things and how they're approaching things, aren't they? So, yeah, looking at the past and being like, this is how we've done it in the past doesn't really Doesn't really speak much to how they're going to do it going forward. So yeah, who knows?
Because I guess the question is, was it right the way it was done in the past? And if it's not necessarily, then I think they're taking steps to change course. Anonymous Rex says they just need to take an unknown area and zoom into a subsector size area. I think they need the freedom to create a narrative without the mainline story being concerned. Now that is an interesting point. With 40k, we've seen the advancement of the story in the Arcs of Roman series, but it looks like we get to the conclusion and then suddenly the brakes slam on and the Tyranids are invading from the other side of the galaxy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've not really heard anything from the Silent King and
He's very
Silent King
quiet
and
though,
the
isn't he?
Necrons.
He's very quiet.
Yeah,
That's kind of
well,
his
yeah.
thing.
But a bump.
Yeah, but yeah, that was meant to be like the big narrative arc for ninth edition, and we kind of got to a point, and then no real advancement from that. And I guess the problem is, the 40k is like 30 seconds to midnight, isn't it? The Imperium's probably going to lose, and it's all these various kind of like conflicts now, kind of playing out as we get closer to Abaddon's probable Siege of Terror.
Lord, yeah. I mean, they definitely feel like they were gearing up towards that.
Yeah.
But now with the Tyranids coming in, that's going to be very interesting to see what we do with that, especially if the Tyranids are close to Terror. And if I'm remembering right, when they did the Genestealer Cult and Custodes Codex, wasn't there a Genestealer Cult uprising on Terror?
There was, yeah, and this is potentially laying the path for this because the cults themselves become like a psychic beacon, don't they, to draw the Hive fleets in. So maybe that was like sowing the seeds for this invasion. I mean, again, it's cool. You can reflect the kind of damaged state of the Imperium, can't you? Because what you can then have is Gulliman maybe fighting the fight on the Terror side of the Cicatrix Maledictum, while maybe the Lion takes on stuff on the other side. Maybe we've got another Primarch back now, so it does level the playing field. And then you've got the feeling that the Imperium is besieged by all sides then as well. We see it in the narrative trailer, don't we? Where Gulliman's kind of like the I guess the public and even the armies probably feel that, oh yeah, we're winning the fight, aren't we amazing? We're actually in reality the resources of the Imperium's dwindling because they've got this kind of fight going on all sides.
Yeah, it's like we're winning, but are we winning all of the fights?
Yeah, or are we winning it all and is the rest just propaganda?
Yes, yeah.
Is the Imperium actually heavily outnumbered by the Tyranids and it's all gone to hell in a handcart?
Did you watch the what was it called? It was Angels of Death series that we did on Warhammer Plus.
Angels of Death? No, I've not seen it. No, which one was that? Is that the Tyranid one? The Space Marines one?
Yeah, it's Blood Angels versus Genestealer cults.
Yes, I did watch that. I did watch that. Yeah.
There's a bit in there with a space battle where the ship mistress, I forget the name of the ship, but they're sort of like almost fleeing away from this giant Tyranid space monster creature, and you kind of look at that and just think, yeah, it's just like the Imperium can fight all the Tyranids on the ground all they want, but if they can't deal with those big space monsters, then yeah, it's a losing fight, really.
Yeah, and I guess it's an endless force, isn't it? If they lose a planet, the biomass gets stripped up, and that's a load of new Tyranid Gribblies on the way to fight you. Or, just breakfast as far as the Tyranids are concerned.
Yeah. There's a load of narrative about them adapting. Like there's a short story think it was in the Space Wolf Codex, where there's Space Wolves fighting Tyranids underwater, and the Tyranids start off as normal Tyranids, but then the Hormagaunts quickly adapt to grow fins.
That's amazing.
So they can swim through the water quicker, and things along these lines. And they realise that they don't have to actually kill the Space Marines; they just have to damage their armor, and then the water will kill them.
Okay. I mean, what I'm hearing, Andy, is that in 10th edition, I want Dolphin Hormagaunts. That's what I'm taking away from this.
That would be frightening, wouldn't it?
Be terrifying. Hormagaunts. Now they can swim.
Now with flippers.
Now with flippers, yeah. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what they do with it. Like you say, the Silent King, we didn't really have any resolution, did we? We know we've got this period of this sector of space, the Pariah Nexus, where people have basically fallen into like a zombie kind of state, haven't they? And that was really interesting in kind of setting things up. And then I don't think it was ever revisited, was it? At all.
No, and that's kind of the issue, isn't it? We don't. I think some of the storylines get picked up in some of the like novellas and stuff like that. They do, but unless someone goes out and reads it and then posts a review online or something along those lines, a lot of people, that knowledge is just lost on it, aren't it? So
yeah, so I'm interested in like narratively where we're going, and if like, okay, the big Abaddon showdown, that can't happen straight away, and maybe that is going to get drip fed at the end of each edition. But I really want to know what happens to my boy Vashtor. Does he become a demon? I mean, we might find out in Arcs of Omen the Lion, mightn't we?
Yes, yeah.
Which is up for pre-order next week, I want to say.
Yes,
so
I think so. Sounds about right.
The book, the box with the lion in it and his Blade God veterans, and Dante and Vashtor and Azrael available separately as well.
Oh, that'd be good.
I think it's a pretty good pre-order week. There's also, Andy, you went on the podcast, were you, last week? We were chatting in detail about the greatest combat patrol box. The Agents of the Imperium one that contains the Breachers and the Star Striders and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you tempted by one of these?
So I've got one box of Imperial Breachers already for Kill Team from the Into the Dark box. I'd like the Star Striders for Kill Team. I'd probably want at least one more box of Breaches for Kill Team, but then if they are actually getting like a proper sort of faction going into 10th edition for like Inquisition or something along those lines, maybe. But I think I'd probably keep it just for Kill Team, if I'm being honest.
Okay. You want to use it for games of boarding action?
Yeah. I mean, the Breaches only really come with like shotguns, so I don't know how good that would be in a regular game of 40k. But
yeah,
you
never know. Shotguns might be really good in 10th edition.
Yeah, you never know. I
do hope they kind of get turned into a faction for 40k, even just for like crusade possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, Inquisition is. It's a big part of the Imperium, isn't it? And it's quite surprising that we're on the 10th edition of the game, and yet we still don't have a proper Inquisition army.
I guess the hard thing is how would you see that deployed as an army in the lore, or would they be more suited to things like Kill Team and boarding action, where it's a I mean, if we're pushing like 1,000-point games, then you get into the potential where actually you might have a mobilized Adeptus Arbites force that is the equivalent of a 1,000-point army. But I mean, somebody's in some serious trouble if 2,000 points of these are deployed somewhere, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be really cool to see. I'd love it, because I would absolutely do an army of them.
Going back to the Lion, we know that he's coming with his Blade Guard, don't we? And I'm pretty sure they said in one of the Warcom articles last week that we kind of hinted at characters being able to join units again.
Yeah, they did. So they mentioned it again today, I believe, that they're sharing a new Tyranid creature on Warcom this week, and talking about how characters and units interact. Because reading between the lines, it sounded very much like, well, Heresy, I guess, is the closest example, which is based on 7th edition, where characters could indeed lead squads. And I think that's going to be a thing, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, they changed it back in sort of like 7th going into 8th, because you could have multiple characters joining the same units and giving the units all their bonuses.
Yeah.
And the issue it had was it created Death Star units. And I think there was a Space Wolf army that had like a couple of like Wolf Guard battle leaders, Death Guard, Raven Wing, like apothecaries on bikes, and all these sort of different characters all joining just like a regular unit of like Fenrisian wolves or something.
Yeah.
And it just turned it into a bit of hero hammer.
So I wonder if they could limit it to like one hero per unit or something. And then one of the things that they've talked about, isn't it, is reducing lethality, because nobody wants to take all their toys off turn 1, do they? And we've seen that a little bit in both games, where there's penalties to hit a character that's nearby a unit. Now, basically, if you give them like a bodyguard unit, that suddenly gives that character some ablative wounds then. And then your cool characters get to survive the game, and it gives your bodyguard units a bit of a roll as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I really wish they'd do something like that for Age of Sigmar, because you look at these sort of like 5 rune 4 up save heroes, and half of them want to be in combat, but then die so quickly in combat.
Which is a shame. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this is a part of 40k, whether we see something like that in Age of Sigmar.
I'd hope so.
Because, it is a balancing act, isn't it? You don't want hero hammer, but equally, you don't want your core heroes just dying immediately either, do you?
No. I mean, you look at the General's handbooks, and it almost feels like they're trialing new edition with these handbooks and work almost like the playtesters. Because like the current one with the Galatian champions, you can't shoot them if they're near. Is it a battle line unit, or is it just a normal unit?
You can't shoot if they're near a unit, unless of course you've got the formation that lets you ignore that rule.
Yeah.
What do you think of that in AOS? There's always the special rule, but then there's the special detachment that ignores the special rule. Do you think that's a good thing, or?
So at first I was very sort of, what's the point in going down that rabbit hole if you're then going to give someone a way out? But the issue is you don't want to give them a battalion which stops your heroes from being shot at, and then you get one hero that's really, really powerful that just sits behind like a big unit of zombies and sits on an objective and is just scoring you points, and you win the game because you can't do anything about them from turn 1. So it's nice to have something that counters it.
And I guess you're taking that counter at the loss of another detachment, really, aren't you? You've got to choose what you take in your army.
So it gives you some more list building, but it's not the end of the world if you don't take it.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if we will see that, because I think that would look cool as well on the tabletop, wouldn't it? A kind of each hero having its own little retinue.
Yeah. Like a slaughter priest joining a unit of blood warriors.
Yeah.
And the blood warriors are there to sort of take the hits, and the slaughter priest is there to sort of buff them and, you know, be that hero and leader figure.
Yeah, especially if they do it so that the character needs to have a retinue of a similar type. So it gives you another reason, other than just fulfilling your battle line, to take certain units, maybe.
Yeah. Like having a Lord of Khorne on Juggernaut with some Skull Crushers.
Yeah, exactly. But your Slaughter Priest might want a unit of Blood Warriors or Blood Reavers with them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. It's, I think it'd be super interesting to see kind of what goes on behind the scenes when they come up with rules.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd love to be a fly in the design studio. That would be a dream come true.
It would, wouldn't
Well,
it?
maybe.
Maybe.
I wouldn't want to be a fly.
You wouldn't be fine. That's very Nurglandy. You're painting Khorne.
I know.
Anonymous Rex says maybe only for Footlord generals.
Yes, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, because then I guess your mounted hero has already got the benefits of having a mount, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're usually more survivable mounted heroes, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
exactly. You know what I
maybe you
miss?
cap it with like wounds cap.
Yeah, you know what I miss? You remember the Warhammer Magic expansion to Warhammer Fantasy, where you had all the little cards and stuff?
Oh, oh God, what was it called?
I think it was
It's
literally
when
called
the
Warhammer Magic.
was that when the Celestial Hurricane, not Celestial Hurricane, Belwyn Vortex came out? That
I'm
one.
talking about 10 years before that, 5th edition maybe,
Oh.
4th edition.
Oh.
Before your time, Andy, I suspect.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
But you had your magic was done with a deck of cards, so you'd draw cards and spend your power from that.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought that was a really cool system, and I'd love to see something come back like that. Because I forget how it's been so long. I forget how it works. But essentially, you drew a card each turn and have a value from 1 to 3. But it might have a card that lets you auto cast a spell, or you might have a dispel card, and you'd save up your cards over the battle, and then be able to spend them on casting spells.
Almost like a game within a game, isn't it?
Yeah, and 40k had similar with the Dark Millennium expansion, which pretty much had the same thing for psychic powers, and it also had the full rules for vehicles and the data facts, as they were called, the little cards with the vehicles stats on. I kind of like stuff like that, and I can see why they don't do it now, because it's another like compulsory purchase in order to get those card components to play the game.
Yeah.
And maybe that is better with using dice mechanics, but I don't know. I just thought there was something really cool about it. No, that
Definitely
was the
play on
Hero
that
Hammer
nostalgia.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
But these were also the days where everyone was rocking vortex grenades and stuff. So,
Oh, yeah, I've heard stories about those.
it was ridiculous. Equally, though, Terminators had a 2d6 save. A 3+ save on 2d6.
Oh, right. So
which I really
basically,
liked.
Yeah.
Because if you had an armor modifier of like 4, modifiers and stuff still worked. It was just hard to kill you. Now, if you didn't have any like anti-armor weapons, you weren't killing Terminators because it was ridiculous. Yeah.
Looking at the Warcom article, it looks like it's going to be harder to kill Terminators going into the future.
I think it's going to be hard to kill everything. What are they, toughness 5 now?
Toughness 5, yeah. With a 4+ invulnerable save as standard.
I wonder what Storm Shield ones will get then.
Yeah, well, this is it, isn't it? Will they get Toughness 6?
Oh, that's not a bad shout, Andy.
And just improve the toughness?
Yeah. It's what are your thoughts on like what they've shown off so far, like on the data sheets that we've seen? Like, one thing we talked about on the podcast. Don't know if you listened to this week's episode yet. In fact, I don't think it's gone out yet. I think it goes out tomorrow, maybe. Was the fact that on the Primaris Lieutenant reveal, it doesn't actually say Primaris anywhere in the article. It's just a new Space Marine Lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
And is that a sign of maybe the Primaris keyword being a thing of the past and they're just Space Marines? Which would also mean that potentially can Primaris finally ride in any transport they want?
Hopefully. I mean, I'm going to assume that the new Terminators can still go in Land Raiders. And they're about the same size, if not slightly bigger than Primaris Marines now, aren't they? So, if that's still the case, then I would imagine Primaris Marines would be able to jump into Rhinos and stuff. But then you've got Impulsors, and it's kind of why have an Impulsor when you can have a Rhino if it's cheaper.
Unless they give it different roles, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe an Impulsor's faster. Maybe an Impulsor is the better transport for getting across the battlefield quickly, where Rhinos, they may be more... It's slower, but more reliable.
Yeah. It's got a better toughness, better armor save, that sort of stuff.
And that's one of the good things of a whole, new edition refresh, isn't it? They can change everything in the roles that they've got and make things suited for different things better than they used to be able to.
Yeah,
because it must be hard to tweak things on the fly. Page. Yeah, like FAQs and stuff, you can only go so far with. If you get to the point where you need to completely rewrite a book, then arguably the book's just busted, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Which we have seen in the past, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, Votan, they got changed before the book even came out, didn't they?
Yeah.
Although we did get James Workshop's apology video, which was awesome.
We haven't seen much James Workshop recently, have we?
No. I mean, there's a running joke that they only bring him out at Christmas or apology videos, so we should see him at Christmas.
Maybe he is
Santa.
Santa.
Like Santa, yeah. For Warhammer Santa.
Warhammer Santa would be good. What would you leave out for Warhammer Santa? Some like clippers and some plastic glue or something? A sprue and a brew, I think, would be the on-brand answer to that, wouldn't it?
Oh, for us, yeah.
Leave out a sprue and a brew for Warhammer Santa.
I'd probably leave out an unpainted mini. Just like, there you go, Santa, work your magic.
Well, I'm getting there on this guy, Andy. Considering I've been streaming for an hour and a half, I'm quite happy with how it's coming together. Need to put a wash on the metals, another round of highlights on the black leather, and then start highlighting up the wheel. But I might just gloss the wheels.
Just have like a shiny black.
Yeah, and then start painting up the base. They are fun models to work on, especially because, like, I've got no preconceptions of what they do either. Like, most of the time for Warhammer, I will normally paint as per the box art. In fact, this is a good debate for a future podcast. Do you slavishly follow the box art, or do you kind of go freeform and make it up as you go along? A lot of the time, I would just follow the kind of like heavy metal scheme.
Yeah, I mean, at the minute, with this Bloodthirster, I mean, obviously, I'm still going for red, but the Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury, which is the one I'm painting, Games Workshop have painted it sort of black skin with like red armor. So I'm kind of keeping it Khorne, but I'm doing different to what Games Workshop do. But I am very much very similar to Games Workshop color scheme. Like that's how I've done my ogres for Age
Yeah.
of Sigmar. And I think if I were to redo my ogres, I'd go for a completely different color scheme, one that's a bit more relaxing to paint.
Oh right, okay.
Cause like I did originally they were like Bugman's Glow with a wash, and then I did like a dry brush over the top. And then during lockdown, I very nearly sold the entire army because I just didn't like how the skin was.
You nearly sold your
Um,
ogres.
yeah, I would have redone them, but
Yeah.
yeah, in the end, I just ended up layering Cadian flesh tone over the top, and then I liked it a lot more. And then when we did the Blood Pelt Hunter, when we got sent that, I just did a couple of thin coats of Cadian flesh tone, did a wash of Reichland flesh shade over the top, and then just lightly overbrushed Cadian flesh tone back over the top.
Okay.
And I think that's how I'd go forwards, doing it again. But I'd quite like the idea of doing ogres with like grey skin. I
Yeah.
think that would be a bit different.
I really liked the what are we talking? Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, where they had like blue
Oh,
grey
the
skin.
yeah.
That was a really cool scheme for them.
I think there's a paint guide in the Battle Tome that's very similar to that, using
Is there?
Iron Rack flesh.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool. We've got Caracan154 over on Twitch. Evening all. Hope good Easters were had. I always end up working, so does invoicing count as hobbying? Invoicing almost counts as hobbying. It almost does. Glad you could join us though. Once you've done your work, you're doing any hobby later on. Here in the UK, it's a bank holiday tomorrow. So we've all got the day off. I don't actually. I say we. Are you off on tomorrow, Andy? Are you working?
So I'm actually off tomorrow.
Ooh.
But I should have been working today. But I've been off today, as well. But I had the pleasure of working until about 10 o'clock last night and
Ouch.
working all day Friday as well. So yeah, I've done my time.
You've done your time. I'm not back in work till Tuesday. I've got some website stuff to do tomorrow. Some painting that needs doing by end of day tomorrow, and some review writing, all that fun stuff. So it's good to have a day to be able to get all that boxed off because it is a big job writing reviews and stuff. And then Dave is coming round after work, after he's finished work, and we're doing some practice games for the 40k doubles in July, I think it is. So I'll be pitting my my second edition Tyranids in High Fleet Behemoth colours against Dave's. I think he's going to bring two armies with him, Death Guard and no, Death Watch. Sorry, Death Watch and Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum. So that'll be fun.
That'll be good.
It'd be nice having a 1,000 point game of 40k, especially if these are probably going to be the last few games of this edition as well. Like, in all likelihood, we do these games to work out the armies we want to take for the event, and then everything's different in the next edition anyway. But it'd be nice to.
Yeah.
It's nice to get a feel for the armies, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my advice to people at the minute would be, like, play 1,000 point games, play 2,000 point games, wait until the new edition comes out, and then realistically, I don't think the points are going to massively change.
No, I wouldn't surprise
I mean,
me
who knows?
if points go up, so armies are relatively smaller.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the big issue at the minute was 2,000 point games. I mean, like I said, I've not played a 2,000 point game of 9th edition, but having run one-day events and stuff at 2,000 points and stuff, no one finished their games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think bringing it down to make it a bit more manageable would be the smart choice, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it makes the game kind of easier to get into as well, doesn't it? If armies are
100%.
relatively smaller.
100%, yeah, definitely.
What kind of content would you like us to do, Andy, for 10th edition? Is there anything that you've always fancied us doing?
Well, I'd love to do a combat patrol challenge,
Hmm.
where we all do like a combat patrol box.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
From the
definitely
ones
up for
that Go
that.
Suits Upsell.
What
Yeah.
obviously we might get some new combat patrols. We're probably gonna get the World Eaters one. I suspect in the next few weeks. I reckon in the lead up to 10th edition we get that box released.
It's quite surprising that we've not had it released so far, because they came out in
January.
Was it January?
Yeah, and we're what on April now. Yeah, so I reckon we'll see that. I'd probably do them as my little challenge because I've got Angron and stuff. How about you? What are you tempted by?
Oh, too many.
Too many.
I'd probably go for either Drukari
Ooh.
or I quite like the Orc one, because I bought the Orc one back when the current Orc Codex came out, but I never really did much with it.
Yeah.
So I like the look of the Orc one. I like the Drukari one. The Craft World one I think looks cool if you're going for like a nice mixture of different units, because you get a Psyker in there, you get the Guardians for some shooting, you've got the jet bikes for maneuverability, you've got the Wraith Lord for kind of like the monster big like dreadnought sort of unit. So
Yeah.
Quite like the Leagues of Votan, because they're an army that I'd like to sort of like push going into this new edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few really.
Yeah, I guess it'll be interesting once we learn a bit more about how this combat patrol sub game works as well, because I can see a lot of people jumping on that. Like, how many times have we seen a new army, and you've wanted to, jump on the army, paint some models, but you don't necessarily want to paint 2,000 points. Maybe you don't even want to paint 1,000 points. You just want to pick up a £80 box, paint some models, and then that then is a self-contained army that you can game with.
Yeah.
I think that's a really fun idea, and I hope they do the same
Especially
thing for
if you want to
AOS.
do. Oh yeah, 100%. I'd like it for them to do Vanguard box sort of games, and that's one thing that I really would like from 4th edition Age of Sigmar, is just supporting like 1,000-point games with scenarios specifically written for sort of 1,000 points. I mean, the last Purple Sparkly Unicorn event we did was an Age of Sigmar event, and we had to sort of put a little bit of house rules into what you could and could not take.
How to make it work.
Yeah, because at 1,000 points, you could take a Knight Draconis for Stormcast, and then 2 units of 2 Stormdrake Guard, and it'd just be silly. So he sort of like capped it and said you can't have units of more than I think it was 335 points.
Yeah.
And it also stopped people taking from like taking big units of like Bestigor and these really big units at 1,000 points, just charge across the army and take your opponent's army off in a turn. So
yeah, and nobody wants that. It's not. Again, it's not fun to have all your models taken off turn 1, is it?
No.
I think that rule is in the event pack for the weekday Warhammer, Andy. I think the events team have done the same. No unit can be more than. I'm sure it's 3. It's basically no unit can be more than a third of your army.
Yeah, because you look at like the reason why I put it at 335 was that's the cheapest hero for Beastclaw Raiders.
Oh, right,
Um,
okay.
because I didn't really want to. I mean, still invalidating Sons of Behemat, but at 1,000 points, you just take 2 Mega Gargants and they never die. So
Yeah.
it just wouldn't be fun. The army, again, Sons of Behemat don't really work at 1,000 points.
Well, I believe
Um,
in the event pack again, and they've got some special rules for the Sons of Behemat to make them work at 1,000 points as well, which is
oh
interesting.
really?
Like your general can be a man crusher.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
might have to look at that.
So I think we do. They've got the whole event pack up on Eventbrite. So I think sadly I can't get the time to go to the event because I'll be up for it. But
Hmm.
I reckon we borrow that event pack, Andy, and maybe try some
Yeah,
1,000 point games. Maybe even stream them on the site because that's a nice sweet spot, isn't it?
oh
Small
yeah,
games like that.
definitely.
So yeah, if anyone is going to that event as well, let us know because I'd love to know what kind of the consensus is on low points level Warhammer because I think
Yeah, I over the last couple of years, that's how I enjoy playing.
mm,
Because let's face it, you don't have to build and paint as many miniatures. You can realistically you can paint 1,000 points of most factions in a month.
yeah,
Um, and then you get more armies on the table quicker. Games don't take as long to play. You don't need as much space to play them. You don't need much scenery,
yeah,
and financially it doesn't cost as much, does it? So
yeah, and I think with 10th edition, I suspect they're going to want to, I guess, appeal to as many different types of players. It is expensive to jump straight in with a 2,000 point army, so having lots of different ways of playing with those figures at smaller points, or even with completely different rule sets, like with Combat Patrol, where, like you mentioned, the balancing all the boxes against each other. I'm super
hmm,
interested to see that because presumably they
yeah.
know, they know the metrics for the army. Then I think that'd be a really interesting format for an event at Warhammer World as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
There's
they showed off the Termagant data sheet, but there's two versions, and
yeah.
one of them includes Ripper Swarms in the unit, and the Ripper Swarms can take wounds for the Termagants,
Oh,
um,
interesting.
and that just happens to be you get Ripper Swarms in the Combat Patrol box for Tyranids at the minute.
You're doing the current one. I wonder if they'll get a new one, maybe with the contents of the. I've been thinking about this. Obviously, the launch box will come out, and we've seen in past editions those sprues from the launch box get released eventually, but quite expensive. Now,
Mm.
since then, I believe, and I might be wrong, but I believe every army set that's come out since then has eventually been the contents of the Combat Patrol box.
I mean, Leagues of Votan one, that's almost exactly the same, isn't it? You just get the berserkers instead of one of the characters.
Oh, do you? So is it different? Okay.
Slightly different.
But not a million miles off. And then, I mean, they could potentially put the contents of that box with the monopose sprues in a Combat Patrol box.
Mm.
Um, yeah, interested to see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super pumped for 10th edition. I really am.
I think a lot of
It's
people
about
are.
time.
I think uh, there's been a lot of bloat in ninth edition, but
Mm.
I guess in the last like 15 minutes that we've got, what are your kind of like positive ninth edition memories? Like, yeah, okay, some of it was bloated, but what bit really worked for you?
What really worked? Oh, I did like some of the secondary objectives.
Hmm.
Because if you weren't doing very well on primary, you still had something to go for with the secondary objectives.
Yeah.
I liked in the sort of like the most recent chapter proofs where they made it so that both players get command points in either player's turns.
Yeah.
That was good. I think for me, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed our doubles event that we went to with Chaos Knights because they were really good fun.
Yeah.
I like the Crusade events, like the 50 power level sort of style games. But yeah, that's about it really. Like I've kind of not fallen out of love with 9th edition, but I just preferred playing sort of Age of Sigmar and Kill Team and stuff. Like I said, I haven't played a 2,000 point game of 9th edition, which is yeah.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder. A lot of people sometimes, worried about new editions and how it's going to change the army. I've got good feelings about 10th edition. I think
100%, yeah.
Heart was in the right place with 9th edition. I think it just started to kind of sag under the weight, didn't it, by the end of the edition?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of written for tournaments, because they took a lot of inspiration for it from the American ITC, like the independent tournament circuit. And that's where sort of like secondary objectives and primary objectives came from. I think there was a company called Frontline Gaming that used to, I mean, I'm sure they still do, loads of battle mats and stuff like that, and that's kind of how they got started. But they were really big tournament players, and they used to, I think they hosted or were one of the big ones that ran the ITC in America. I might be making that up, but yeah, I remember watching some of their sort of like early streams, and they introduced sort of like primary objectives, secondary objectives, tertiary objectives, and then a couple of months later, 8th edition, 9th edition, came out with, funnily enough, primary objectives, secondary objectives. So I get the feeling that 9th was written for tournament gamers rather than all-rounders.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's a mistake because, like you say, tournament play is a relatively small proportion of the player base, isn't it? I know based on Warhammer YouTube, you'd suspect that 99% of the players play match play because that's all the content that you find. But most people will play more. I suspect the majority of people play closer to open play, where they just put the models on the table and roll some dice. Maybe not even have any scenarios. Might just be like one side wins before the other, or just free form stuff that they've made up. I know I certainly did when I started playing as a kid. Now, obviously, people can now embrace narrative play a bit more, can't they? With Crusade and Path to Glory and all the cool stuff like that. And I wonder if they'll lean more into that in the next edition of the game. Because Crusade was really fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, Crusade was fun. I had some minor gripes with it, in the sense that it was on the right tracks. But like I said, for me, the narrative story comes from giving me a situation, let's say an ambush scenario, and majority of the force gets wiped out, but your Space Marine lieutenant is still left alive, but then gets a wound or something along those lines, and
the
repercussions of that mission is that your supply lines in the area are hurt, and you can't use vehicles as much, or something along those lines. Whereas Crusade, almost felt like a D&D sort of style of playing 40k, where you
Yeah.
level up your guys, and some units get experience and others get injuries and stuff like that, and that's fine, but it doesn't really tell like an overall story.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. The we had the leveling up and stuff, but we didn't really have the ongoing story of the forces.
No, and that again, Crusade's new, or relatively new, isn't it? It's only the last couple of editions that it's come in, so.
I believe it only came in the last edition. Yeah, I think it only came in for
Oh.
9th edition Crusade. So it is very young. Yeah, I'm really interested to see in what they've done on there. I hope that the game's not too geared on match play again.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about Age of Sigmar is you've got the core rules, and then you've got different battle packs that go on top of those core rules.
Yeah.
So like you've got the open play battle pack, which is what I'm going to be using at the open play event next weekend. But then when it comes to tournaments, you use the match play battle pack in the General's Handbook.
Yeah.
And then with obviously Path to Glory, use the Path to Glory battle pack. So they've
Yeah.
almost segmented the different types of gaming, which I think is probably the best way to do it, just to keep it simple.
Yeah, and I hope that's something that they do going forward. It's I think one of the faults of being too geared on match play, and by just remembering that other type of play exists, it makes it a bit more accessible to all then. And
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think there's necessarily too much of a distinction between match play and narrative play. I mean, in 40k at the minute, with Crusade and match play games, they do play very differently. The way you score points and stuff. Do you maybe think we might see something closer to battle tactics and grand strategies for 40k?
Maybe. I don't think we will, just because then 40k is becoming a bit too close to Age of Sigmar. I think battle tactics and grand strategies are a lot simpler to keep track of than secondaries, because it always made me laugh that we have 3 secondaries, which for me it would be good to have a primary objective and then a secondary objective that is different depending on your player. So player A might have a different secondary to player B, but they both have the same primary objective.
Yeah, a reason for the conflict, but then each force's own reason of being there
is different. Yeah, I think that would be a better way of doing it, because then you keep the same objectives throughout the game, whereas battle tactics you change every single turn, don't you?
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good way of keeping them separate, but also kind of the same sort of idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to see the same kind of format of scenarios that we've got now then in 40k?
Yeah, I think chapter approved. Again, it's like that layering, isn't it? Chapter approved. That's got all your match play stuff in, and changing it up every couple of months keeps it new and interesting, and stops it from getting a bit stagnant, and which is is always good for the game and good for events and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would. I think I'd like to keep them.
Okay, cool. And would you? One of the things that I talked about with some people in the past is how for Age of Sigmar, Path to Glory and match play are a lot closer. Where in 40k, it is very different missions in Crusade than it is in match play. Would you like to see those move closer for 40k? Or would you like to keep them like completely separate?
Keep them separate.
Mm-hmm.
For the exact reason, narrative play, it doesn't need to be balanced. Like again, I keep saying it, the ambush scenarios, one side has a massive advantage over the other, and that's part of the story, isn't it? Warfare isn't necessarily fair. Everyone's
Yeah.
trying to get an advantage over the other, whereas match play, it's that mentality of, again, you don't want to get tabled turn one. You need the game to be balanced. So
Yeah.
then player skill comes into it, and army list and your choices and that sort of stuff.
Do you think the recent trend of like symmetrical scenery deployment and stuff like that, your average player who only wants to play kind of narrative play looks at that and feels that they need to have their battle set on Mirror World, where all the scenery is a certain number of inches from the terrain and each deployment zone is exactly the same? The one thing I've really missed from the game is a meaningful choice on which deployment zone you pick.
Again, that's the difference between sort of narrative play and match play, and I think for match play, that's symmetrical sort of deployment with scenery being sort of like in both sides. I think that's very important, and I think it's a good thing. But again, for like narrative play or even casual play, yeah, again, it's up to players, isn't it? Ultimately, you play the game how you want to play it. If you're at home and you've got Drukhari fighting against Tau, you're gonna want a lot of scenery for the Drukhari, aren't you? Because otherwise, it's going to be a very short game.
Yeah.
But yeah, in tournaments, in match play, at an event, specifically at an event, I think having that mirrored setup for scenery is very important. But I think if you're just playing like casual match play or narrative play or open play, set it up however you want. It's enjoy it.
And I hope the game stresses that as well. There's no right or wrong way to play. You can take building blocks from each of those different types, can't you? And mush them together. You can play a Crusade. We've played Crusade tournaments with some match play elements. Equally, you can throw away some of the Crusade bits that you don't like and strip the game down. I think a lot of people are very, I guess, concerned with following things by the letter of the rules, where you can be fast and loose with rules. You can drop bits that you don't like. You can drop things that maybe don't work for you and just kind of create what does work.
Yeah,
If that makes
I
sense.
mean, I came up with a narrative campaign in Age of Sigmar for a Gloomspike Git Loon boss, and I basically looked at his war scroll and I was like, they're not really like front row fighters.
Yeah.
They're not epic heroes. They're ultimately, at the end of the day, they're goblins. They're supposed to be sneaky and tricksy and that sort of stuff. So I actually, in sort of like my notes, changed his war scroll.
Okay.
And basically made him almost like a mini Gotrek.
Right.
Like obviously not as good. But I took some of the rules where like he reduces damage of attacks that target him of more than 1/1, and then gave like the goblin like a 4+ ward save, and basically the main idea of the story arc was he was collecting what he thought was fragments of the Bad Moon, and that's why he was sort of like more powerful than a standard loon boss.
Okay, no, I like that. That's cool. Can you believe it though, Andy? We are rattling up to 9 o'clock.
Oh my days!
Time flies when you're having fun. So should we do a quick hobby update before we sign out for the day? So I have been working on my biker, and the base colours and really a majority of it's done. I painted up the red of the bike. I've got some white stripes on there. The silver's all washed down, so when this dries, I can give this a bit of a highlight and then paint the base, and we're really good to go on it. It was really fun painting this up for something different as well. So I've got the rest of that JSA starter box to paint up, and then can play some games of Infinity. How have you got on with your Bloodthirst, Randy?
I'm really happy. Considering he was just Mephisto red this morning,
Yeah.
I've basically got all the base colours done on him. Like, I'm just filling in the wing main brains now. And then the only bit I haven't done is there's a little bit of hair on his sort of like arms and legs and his sort of like back. So I just need to do them sort of like a couple of thin coats of Corvus black. But then that's all the base coat's done. And I've done, he's got like a little bit of a flame on his hoof that connects him to the base. I fully painted that first. And I've done all the base coats on all the skulls and the slate and stuff on his base. So I think tomorrow morning I'll crack on and get his base done, and then I can sort of like work my way back up with washes up the model. And I was expecting this guy to take me a week to paint, and I've been quite on it today, and got the majority of him done. So I think I can take a sigh of relief that he will definitely be painted up for next weekend, which is always good.
That is good going. Cool. Well, I hope everyone else at home has managed to get some painting done as well. We will be back next Sunday, where I don't know what I'll be painting. Maybe some Tyranids. I think I might get some of my second edition Tyranids done to get in the mood. I've also got a load of Beastmen that I bought, the Blackstone Fortress ones that I bought off eBay on a whim ages ago. So I might start painting them up to use in my kill team for the event, Andy.
Well, that'd be good.
So but if you have enjoyed this and you don't already, why not subscribe on YouTube or give us a follow on Twitch. Also, we've got our Patreon live now as well at Sprues and Brews. Sorry, it's patreon.com/Sprues and Brews. All the details are on spruesandbrews.com as well. We've also got a merch store on there as well. I've added a few new items today, including some hoodies and t-shirts and a polo shirt as well. So check that out. But hope you've had a great Easter weekend. If you're in the UK, hope you enjoy your bank holiday tomorrow. But until next time, we'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.